How are you getting on with trying to go foam free? Are you practicing your foam free mechanics, whether that be using a pin holder or chicken wire? Hello there, I'm Julie from Julie Davis Flower Workshops and Flower Start, the online flower arranging classes. Now I don't know whether you've heard, but I'm doing my own Julie and Julia project. It's Julie and Julia, the flower edit, and rather than being influenced by the famous Julia Childs and her cookery book, I've been influenced by Julia Child's book, Fun with Flowers, a treatise on the art of flower arrangement. I think I've calculated that there are 85 flower arranging projects here, and I'm going to work my way through them throughout the year. You might already have seen episode 1, my spring arrangements. In this episode, I'll bring you my early summer arrangements. So what's in store? I've got arrangements featuring horse chestnut candles, rhododendrons, irises, chives, oxeye daisies, and then onto the single flowers. 1 poppy, 1 rose, and 1 carnation. This video is going to be a roundup of all the arrangements I've been making over the last few weeks. If you'd like to see an extended version of the video where you see me making my arrangements from the beginning to end, well, that is a special video which is only available to those of you who are in my YouTube membership group. If you'd like to join and watch that video, all you need to do is click the join button and you'll find that next to the subscribe button underneath this video. Or alternatively, click the down arrow to find the description underneath the video and you'll find the joining link there. As well as getting the Julie and Julia the Flower Edit bonus footage, you'll also be able to access my monthly YouTube Flower Club. So whether that's a meeting you want to join next time live, or perhaps you might want to watch some of the pre-recorded editions of Flower Club. If you'd like to know more about Flower Club, let me know in the comments and I can provide you with a few more details. But essentially, we meet once a month here on YouTube in the private membership group. I will tell you in advance what we're going to be making together, and then I will take you through how to create a beautiful arrangement. Well, I must admit that arranging with horse chestnut flowers is a first for me. How about you? So what I did here is I took a footed copper container. This originally had a grid in it, made an outline with small scale horse chestnut leaves and then infilled with the horse chestnut spikes. They were ever so satisfying to cut and remarkably lasted 3 or 4 days. If I was to try this again, I might make another one with the pink horse chestnut flowers. It was rhododendrons next, and I must admit this project took me a little bit off guard. For some reason or another, I thought rhododendrons flowered in the autumn time, so I was quite surprised when I started noticing them in May. Now, if you're a rhododendron expert, I'd love it if you could explain to me in the comments what's the difference between a rhododendron and an azalea. Something I've been pondering while I was making this arrangement. As you can see, I am packing chicken wire into my very traditional urn style arrangement and then making a massed arrangement just using the rhododendrons with their natural foliage. Now you'll see when I finish this arrangement that because I was arranging in accordance with the natural shape and flow of my branches, by coincidence, all the fuller blooms were on the left-hand side and all the more tighter blooms, the ones that were just waiting to come out into full bloom, were all on the right-hand side. In the end, I just had to work with what the branches were telling me to do rather than being able to intermingle the blooms to where I really wanted them to go. If you've been following along with my Julie and Julia the Flower Edit blog posts, I'll leave a link to the blogs in the description underneath this video. You'll know that I featured quite a few iris arrangements in the first video roundup I did. I'll also leave a link to that video so you can take a look at that one too if you missed it. So I was using lots of blue irises in the springtime, and then fortunately I spotted the white irises that had come into season. So I'm trying to create an arrangement here using chicken wire and getting Julia Clement's classic sort of diagonal sweep to her arrangements. Easy enough to do when you've got pliable arching stems, but not quite so easy when you've got really straight irises. So you can see here me trying to angle them rather precariously in order to get a bit of natural flow to them. Rather unusually, Julia arranged her vase of irises with the darker blooms on the outside edge and the paler ones into the middle. That looks a little bit strange to me. Let me know in the comments what you think. I would have rather have she made this arrangement with the blue in the middle and the white to the outside. From the purples of the irises, let's move on to the purple of the chives. Now I think this arrangement took about 25 chives, of which I could only find about 19 in my garden. So if you look carefully, you'll notice that some of my larger chives are actually small ornamental alliums. And to create the heart of this arrangement, I'm going to use choisia, and because I didn't want the choisia flowers to distract, I did trim them all off. This arrangement's got a triangular outline, so what I start off doing is putting my lower chives in first of all, and then this single chive right to the top, and that gives me my basic triangular shape. I know how high my arrangement's going to be, and I know how wide it's going to be, and then all I need to do is to evenly distribute the other flowers, making sure there's lots of space and air around them. I haven't got any of them too close together. And then to set the arrangement off, Julia just used 3 single spiked leaves. I think hers may well have been iris leaves. I didn't have any, so you can see me trimming my carex to a point and then cutting it to length and then sliding it between the heads of the pin holder. The next 3 arrangements are all a variation on a theme. I'm going to be using oxeye daisies because I don't have any pyrethums, and I think pyrethums are just an old-fashioned variety of a chrysanthemum, but with a much simpler, very simple daisy-shaped form. But there is variety amongst them, and that's the only drawback with these arrangements. All my oxeye daisies are the same shape. There's some size variation, but Julia, when she was making her arrangements, had much more textural and visual interests than I was able to create with just my single flower. I'm also using here a dark leafed foliage, which is from the ornamental cherry tree in my garden. So I have had quite a lot of fun searching for vintage style arrangements that I can use to replicate Julia Clement's flower arrangements in her book Fun with Flowers. This is a ceramic log which I bought from a vintage store in Ramsgate. So if you like thrifting or you want to find out where I get my containers from, I have got a whole playlist on my thrifting adventures. I'll leave a link to that in the description underneath the video. I was rather pleased with the way this one worked out. In fact, it was my favourite of the three that featured the oxeye daisies, but because it had the longer stems, I ended up cutting them down to make the next three arrangements. And here's the next one, using a wall vase. So I couldn't get hold of a wall vase when I was searching for containers for this project right back at the beginning of the year, and I ended up buying this little, what looks to me like a 1970s dull brown container, and it's not my favourite thing, but I am wondering whether perhaps I should treat myself to a wall vase, perhaps one of the ones made by Silvac or Dartmouth, which I have subsequently spotted in a couple of the antiques and vintage shops I've been recently visiting. Of course, as beautiful as wall vases are, you do have to have some space from which to hang them, and here I've taken off one of my spode plates and just hung it up temporarily underneath the penguin from Tenby Pottery. So the last in this short series of oxeye daisy arrangements, back to using my ceramic log, and this is an arrangement Julia designed to be quite compact in nature. She says in her book it's been designed for a whole shelf in a narrow space in her London apartment. So from the simplicity of using several stems of a single flower type, now let's move on to the more exciting project perhaps as we come to the end of early summer, reaching peak summer season, and this is simply what Julia Clements calls the mixed vase. So I'm using silver birch foliage here in a vintage vase from Wedgwood, which was another charity shop find. This is a lovely airy foliage, and you do need to have a quantity of foliage to start off your arrangements, otherwise you'll find that the flower stems rock around a little bit. So the thing to do is to persevere. The more you put into your vase, the more it'll offer strength and support to the other flowers that you've got. So they've got some beautiful stems of lupins with a little bit of a natural movement as they're curling round at the top, and then infilling the central area with some pale pink larkspurs and white larkspur too, and these are the sort of sisters of the blue delphiniums that you'll be used to seeing in herbaceous borders of stately homes, and then packing out the centre of the vase with three bright pink dahlias, and then to support that focal area as well, a cluster of beautiful white peonies, which at the time of filming are just coming to the end of their season. And then to fill out again, so I've got the spike forms of the lupins and the larkspur, the rounded forms of the peony and the dahlia, and now it's to infill with Ami Major, that looks very much like cow parsley, nigella, all sorts of lovely ingredients. And to round off, it's a case now of all the single ladies making three arrangements using one flower in each. So let's start off with the poppy. So the poppy in Julia's book is one of the huge oriental poppies. Mine is one of the smaller varieties, not the field poppy, but the kind of poppy that gives you really good poppy seeds heads, which are great for using during the autumn months and then spritzed up with gold and silver for Christmas time. I'm just grooming out some of the dead little bits of leaf of that hellebore. It's quite a nice shape curling up and out of the container, and just covers up the pin holder a little bit. And that poppy lasted a good 24 hours. It looked beautiful to watch as the petals slowly fell off and the seed head was revealed. Now this must be the easiest arrangement ever, and I'm sure you've probably done something similar to this, a floating flower head. So I picked this rose which was overhanging my garden from next door. It has got such a fabulous scent, so it's just a matter of making sure you've got a really clean vase, a little bit of water at the bottom. I've probably got filled my vase to a third, and let the flower head float. It's not a particularly long lasting arrangement, but again will look good for 2 or 3 days. And then the final arrangement in this early summer segment of flower arrangements, and this is, I think you'll agree with Julia's words, quite a masculine looking arrangement, and she suggests arranging this carnation to put on the gentleman's desk. So I'm using my ceramic seashell with a pin holder inside, and then I'm going to use some choisia, I think I went for in the end, to cover up the open mouth of the container, just to disguise the look of the pin holder, and then just add one single carnation. It's as easy as that. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments which was your favourite Julia Childs arrangement that I sought to recreate. And if you're going foam free as well, or trying to start to go foam free, let me know in the comments how you're getting on.